Thank you, Rod, for having me, and thank you, David O'Meara, for helping set this up. Thank you all for giving me a little bit of your open mic time. I've been shadowing for about 15 minutes.
Take the time you need.
Okay.
Take the time you need.
I'll finish, maybe I'll just kind of intersperse anecdotes about Santa Barbara as I go along. It is a city of 90,000 people. It is one of the most affluent cities in the country. At one point, the average housing price was $950,000 per house. I live there because my wife has a house, thanks to her parents. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to afford to live in the city in which I am the poet laureate, because I'm the poet. So I will read a little bit about Santa Barbara. In fact, maybe I'll start with a poem about Santa Barbara. It does feature my wife, whom I love dearly, called Shelley in Santa Barbara. To go back to a dead poet, you all know Shelley's defense of poetry, in which he has that famous line, you know, poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. So, Shelley in Santa Barbara. Poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. I tell my wife, eventide. We have been drinking Chardonnay as the Santa Ynez Mountains fade to purple in the near distance. Fog rolling in from the Pacific obscures our Channel Islands view. What? She says. I repeat the claim. Shelley's idea, I tell her, not mine. Two mourning doves slice down the canyon, angle toward us, barely clear the roof. Next door, the two normally sedate lawyers are throwing a party. Timber! Someone yells, and something crashes, though not a tree. I'm sure the neighborhood association would not approve. My stepdaughter steps out back to borrow $50 for a movie, and my wife forks it over. My Bentley! Someone screams at the party, and everyone howls. The doves return, alight, take wing again. Poets are, I begin once more, but my wife holds up her hand, a warning. Not in this world, she states flatly, refilling her crystal goblet almost to the rim. So the territory I work is sort of dark humor. That's the dominant tone, I think, of my work. I love, I'm a great fan of Irish poetry. I hope there's a little echo of that in my work, but maybe not. This one is called Promises, Promises. You ever get those emails, we all do, you know, that go to your spam box that are frequently for items of a sexual nature? Promises, promises. The question, emailed from someone I don't know, nevertheless looms large. Dream to be a hero in her bed? Of course I do. This is my wife we're talking about. How could I fail to be interested in the elaborate and ungrammatical come-ons? Enlarge your banana length. Don't loose your passion to bad potence. Get ready to the wildest nights of your life with the original blue pill. Yes, she tells me there's more to marriage than physical love. Taking out the trash, for instance, vacuuming and laundry, and picking up after our Saint Bernard. But surely my satisfactory discharge of those domestic duties must pale beside a gratifying, boosted performance like Mr. Sex Machine. What minor miscalculations wouldn't she forgive? The compliment paid too late, socks left in the living room, the cable bill overdue again. If only I could lead her into a world of boundless enjoyments, where my splinter will be bigger and more solid, where my excellent hardness is easy, and I can stay real man, even being drunk. Stolen, about half that comes from spam, so I have to acknowledge that spam there. I was lucky enough to get a couple of poems on Garrison Keillor's The Writer's Almanac, which is a show that's broadcast by National Public Radio, and I gather it must be broadcast also in Canada as well. And it's exciting to suddenly sort of get a lot of attention like that. My book of poems, briefly for about 2 days, was #2 on the Amazon.com poetry hot list. Wow. Below Edgar Allan Poe, but above Shakespeare. It's gone way back down again now if you check, so I don't want to make any permanent promises.
Your mother got her copies.
That's right, yeah. I guess a lot of people listen to that show, and a lot of libraries buy their books of poems by whether or not Garrison decides to read that. So I would recommend that to all poets, is to try and get on the show. This is one of the ones that he read. It's called The Murder Suspect, Moments Before He is Confronted by Police. He sits in the driver's seat of a borrowed Corolla, Red Sox cap tilted low over his anguished face. Across the street, 2 cops huddle together, whispering, gesturing once in his direction. Yet he can't find the will to turn the key and pull away. In the passenger seat, a styrofoam container of half-eaten beef chow mein, cold rice stuck to the tines of a plastic fork. The back seat is piled high with clothes. In the glove box, a loaded .38 snubby and half a box of cartridges. He cracks the window to better hear the swish of willow branches in the November wind. There's a gingery taste on his mustache, and he wipes it with his sleeve as a blast of heavy metal erupts from a pickup, rumbling down the street. His fingertips tingle, probably with cold, possibly from something else. There's a needling twinge above his heart, a flash of memory, purple blouse, a braid of golden hair, a splash of crimson on gray tile. The cops begin to saunter over. Then, as he reaches down, fumbling for his pistol, they run toward him, guns drawn, shouting out his name. I should say something else about Santa Barbara. Well, Santa Barbara is a place with a lot of readings. It's a very culturally rich town. People sometimes ask me about, do you have a polar in Ottawa?
I have a position, but it's not filled.
Yeah, okay. A fellow in Auckland, New Zealand, who publishes the Poetry in New Zealand, wrote to me about what happens. I can tell you that basically in Santa Barbara you have to get nominated by some people. They have to put in a bunch of paperwork. It's an overnight. It would put off most people. They sort of have to be friends of yours to do this. And there's a minor committee, and then there's a larger committee, and then there's a full arts committee. And if the full arts committee approves your nomination, it goes to the mayor and the city council, and they have to vote on it also. In return, you have to perform 6 public events a year, and you get $1,000 a year. So,
and don't spend it all.
if you need to borrow some money, you know where to come from. That's right, yeah, that's right. Thank you. My books are for sale back there for $15 today. I've been hauling them in the back of the rented Camry. I'll read just a couple more poems. I don't want to take up too much time. But I will read this poem, My Parents' Bedroom. I read this in Windsor the other night, and a woman came up to me afterwards and she said that you need to remind people in Canada that everybody in America has a gun, or or carries a gun or could have a gun. Otherwise, they're going to be shot. I guess you're supposed to be shot anyway. My parents' bedroom. No TV on the dresser when I was growing up. Just a reading lamp on each side of the king-size bed. And stacks of shiny paperbacks. North and South, Dune 1 through 6, Everlasting Love. Mom's polyester pantsuits were color-coordinated in her closet, while Dad's 20 pairs of iron jeans hung in one long row in his. Everything had its place, and I found no dark secrets rummaging through their drawers when they weren't home. No hidden Playboys or strange sex toys. Only his cloth bag of poker money, mostly rolls of quarters stashed behind his socks. Their second-story window looked out on our suburban street, where one morning I parked my bike after finishing my Sunday paper route. I'd locked myself out, and when they didn't answer the door, I climbed the roof, tapped the glass politely. When they drew the blinds, Dad stood there with a pistol, ready, he later said, to fire. That's a true story. 2 more poems, and I will get off the stage here. I'll read the poem Annunciation, which you alluded to, Rod, which is, you had it exactly right. It is a kind of an updating of the Annunciation to Mary about the fact that she's going to give birth to Jesus. I put it in what I imagine kind of a bedroom not too far from my own house in Southern California. Annunciation. Lately, angels have been appearing in her bedchamber with alarming frequency. She'll be chilling, surfing the web, minding her own business, basically, when suddenly a little trill of harp music, a visitor from outer space. Sometimes their bodies are nothing more than shafts of pulsing light. Other times they arrive accompanied by puckish cherubs, adorned in robes of elaborate brocade. Full-on halos, their wingspans wider than any goose she's ever seen. Problem is, they don't say anything. She's like, okay? But they only hover there above her iPod dock as if whatever message they've brought, she's supposed to understand already. She doesn't. Try talking to them and they just smile, get all beatific. Most people don't believe her, so she keeps a box of stuff they've left behind. Feathers, of course, lots of them, but also lilies that stink if she doesn't toss them out. And then these notes written in some crazy language on thick paper that smells vaguely of cows. Last night, a new angel came, bigger, brighter, fierce. He brooded over her for half an hour. Once she even thought he'd slap her with those delicate hands they have. She has a feeling this one will be back soon with a question. And she'd better answer yes. And I will end on a slightly comic note.
Somebody move.
Time to go? Is it time for me to
No.
And usually
The
get
light goes out when nobody moves. That means they're wrapped.
Okay, very
You've
good.
got them.
All right.
It's a Canadian energy saver.
This one's called Yelling. I think this seems to be the most popular poem in this book, even though old Garrison didn't pick it. So I will thank you all and say if you ever come through Santa Barbara, by all means, check in with me and I'd be happy to buy you a beer. Yelling. Oh, when I think of all the places my ex-wife yelled at me. Throughout the house, in the kitchen and in the bathroom, in the living room and on the stairs, in the basement by the washing machine, and standing by the bookcase, throwing books and yelling. She yelled at the supermarket checkout counter when I thumbed through a copy of Watch Your Weight, and on the corner of Randolph and Michigan during the biggest blizzard in 15 years. In the backyard, her voice growing hoarse and raw with the madness her mother and grandmother and great-great-grandmother bequeathed to her. She yelled until the neighbors looked over our rickety back fence. Then she yelled at them for listening. In the car, especially in the comfort of the car. On a 5-minute trip to Burger King or a 10-hour drive to another state. She yelled about the traffic and her grievances at work and what I had or hadn't done that day. She bitched and bellyached. She fretted, carped, and groaned. She delivered tongue lashings and gave everyone every last piece of her mind. She bewailed and bemoaned her treatment at the hands of strangers. She bellowed, griped, groused, and grumbled. She even kvetched occasionally, but primarily she yelled. She yelled at midnight and at midday and in the twilight, nothing about her voice the slightest bit crepuscular. She yelled at noon and in the afternoon and early in the dawn before the stars had faded, before I'd fully come awake. From what I hear, she's doing fine without me there to listen. Alone in the house I gladly signed away. Alone with the wide world that made her so desperately unhappy. Alone, alone, but yelling still. Thank you.